Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Online Idol. If this is the first video of mine that you're watching, please make sure to go check out my rankings of the cruelest seasons of American Idol and the biggest downfalls on American Idol. And before I get into the video, I do just want to say that I plan on cranking out more episodes on a more frequent basis, so please make sure you subscribe. In today's episode, I'll be turning the tables on all of the judges to have ever judged American Idol. They've judged the contestants since 2001, and today I will be judging them and ranking them in order. To be clear, I don't hate any of these judges, and I hope nobody sends them hate on social media. Before I get into the rankings, I am going to review the ranking system I chose so we're more clear on who placed where, why. This might sound mean at first, but it's just brutally honest. There were a lot of judges that either refused to say anything critical or truly had nothing to add in terms of comments. One of the main items I took into account was how much I looked forward to the judges' comments and the entertainment factor. After all, it is a TV show and that matters. There are a lot of judges that ranked in the bottom 7, mainly due to the fact that I didn't really care what they had to say. I feel like during a performance, I start to form my own opinion, and sometimes if the performance is bad, I'm not able to put my finger on why. When a judge is able to just cut through all of the BS and give a straight answer on why a performance was bad and how to improve, they ranked higher. Those that scored higher tend to have more shock value in their comments, or at least gave very helpful critiques. At the end of the day, no matter how objective I would try to be in these rankings, I would ultimately need to give my own opinion. You may have already noticed this by now, but I've split these videos into 3 parts. The first one is the 7 best American Idol judges ranked from worst to best, and this one is going to be the 7 worst American Idol judges ranked from best to worst, and the full video will contain both of those rankings all together in one video, worst to best, and there will also be a few extras that I'll sprinkle into that full version throughout, so please stay tuned for all of those parts coming up soon. Without further ado, let's start. Starting at number 8, we're going to go all the way down to number 14. At number 8, we have the pop princess for the last decade, Katy Perry. I swear the point difference in ranking J-Lo and Katy Perry was truly like splitting hairs. The delineating factor that put Katy below the number 7 ranking was all down to commitment to the show. I'm a huge Katy Perry fan, so if any of her major fans are watching this, please don't take what I'm about to say in the wrong way, but Katy Perry being a judge on this panel brings the show down in many ways. That all boils down to commitment. I think the best place to start in backing up that statement is the fact that the show is painfully shorter than it used to be because of 2 things. One is her contract that requires that she only sign on for X amount of weeks. And 2, the show's budget is tiny because it's now slashed from her record-breaking salary. Look, I have absolutely nothing against an icon getting paid what they deserve, but if you truly believe in the concept of this, you should be willing to sacrifice a few million and a few weeks to give contestants a better opportunity. I'll get into this point in another video, but a big part of this show has to do with the development of each individual contestant, and that just doesn't happen when there are only roughly 5 live shows per season. I know this is a criticism of the new show's format, and like I said, I will definitely get into that in another video, but I cannot address my feelings toward Katy Perry as a judge without addressing what her being a judge on American Idol does to the show itself. One thing I'd like to get squared away is that Katy Perry is the only actual judge on the new ABC panel, and I appreciate and respect that. Most of the time, she is a little bit too polished and nice, and you can tell she is terrified of getting canceled for saying something too harsh, like the rest of the panel. But it gets to the point where I'm thinking to myself, Katy, I know you can judge. I know you can judge this show really well. And then I remember season 9 when she was a guest judge for an audition episode, and I realized this as the fact that it is. Katy Perry can be an incredible judge. She just chooses not to be, which makes it even harder to watch. If you kept a tally for every time the judges said something critical to a contestant for an entire season, you would only pick up your pen about 3 times, and they would all be from something Katy said. Katy has real potential, and honestly, I think her allure is bogged down by the 2 judges flanking her on the panel. She has to be the critical one because the others simply refuse to judge. One thing each judge does on this panel that I've never seen before is saying these cryptic messages to the contestants right after giving them a compliment, but I definitely think Katy does it the most. It's comments like, whether you win or lose, or just remember all the contestants that didn't win that still went far in life. It's like they're predicting or pitching for the contestant to go home, and it always comes from nowhere because there was zero criticism in their feedback to the contestant. In summary, I love Katy as a person and entertainer, but her inability to be critical to being a big reason they cut the seasons short are reasons why I simply can't put her in the top tier of judges, but I do think she is fitting into the role the best out of the 3 judges on ABC. At number 9, we have singer, pianist, composer, and actor Harry Connick Jr. Harry was a welcomed addition to the Idol panel as someone who is known to be funny, caring, and extremely smart and musical. Harry is a classically trained musician, and a stark difference between the Steven Tyler, Nicki Minaj, Mariah Carey seat he was filling. When the new panel of J-Lo, Harry Connick Jr., and Keith Urban was introduced for seasons 13 through 15, the general consensus from the media and viewers was that these 3 really liked each other a lot and had great chemistry. Many viewers were happy to see the camaraderie in contrast to the season prior, where there was a lot of tension at the judges' table between Nicki Minaj and Mariah Carey. While I agree that this was true, I feel like there is something special about having 3 powerful music industry names on a panel where anything could happen. This panel was very safe. Now, directly honing in on Harry, he was known to be an extremely musically educated and talented guy with over 28 million album sales worldwide. While someone like myself or a lot of younger millennials or Gen Z folks might not be familiar with Harry's entire career, he did have a big following and breadth of knowledge. Quite frankly, he probably had the best music theory and technique background the show has ever seen. But there was something missing from him. For me, I genuinely pondered his relevance to finding a massive breakout pop sensation. After all, the show puts a lot of emphasis on finding the next Carrie Underwood, Kelly Clarkson, Chris Daughtry, Adam Lambert, Jordan Sparks, Philip Phillips, etc. For someone who spoke as much as he did about music theory and coming from a classical background, I wondered what use it really played in developing a pop star. Harry himself almost alluded to this in his live argument with Randy Jackson, which I will get to later on in this segment. I think someone like Harry does fit on a show like American Idol, but there was something off about his critiquing. His comments always lulled on for what seemed like forever, and he would always find a way to throw in music theory terms and then act highfalutin about it, as if nobody knew what the term vibrato meant. It was an interesting contrast to his appearance as a mentor in season 12 when everything he said in his edited bits was incredible and all of the contestants seemed to really grow and take substantial and useful information from his comments. While Harry had moments of enthusiasm and high energy, which brought lots of laughs, they were few and far between, and the norm of what we heard was long, boring, drawn-out comments. And while you could really tell Harry genuinely loved American Idol and what the show stands for, there are two massive redeeming qualities about Harry that I would be remiss not to mention. One, he cares more than any other judge in the history of the show, and he is self-aware. It's been reported that Harry keeps in touch with many of the contestants from his 3 seasons. When one contestant, Avalon Young from season 15, was recently diagnosed with brain cancer, Harry privately checked up on Avalon and donated substantial funds to her surgery. In fact, the only way we ever even learned about this was through Avalon's interviews. Harry did not publicize his donations to my knowledge, which is rare for a celebrity and even rarer for a judge to stay connected and helpful to his contestants years after the show is over. Harry is also very self-aware. I think he knew his panel was dull in comparison to other seasons. American Idol had a weird moment in the earlier live episodes where they tried to get Harry to apologize for being the mean judge, but it brought out the words we were all thinking. Harry would be an amazing mentor, and Randy Jackson had no business at all being their mentor because they're all getting nothing from it. Well, he didn't exactly say those precise words, but if you go back and watch the clip in context of what was going on that season, it's clear that's what he meant. I agree that Harry would be a great live mentor in perfecting live vocals, or at least I thought I felt that way until he actually performed on the live shows during the finale, and it sounded like cats getting strangled. I honestly feel like someone at his level of perfection should have stepped down as a judge after that performance, or at least should have come out with some sort of statement explaining how it went so wrong.
Loving you isn't the right thing to do. How can I ever change things that I feel?
After a long absence of anyone who was tough, Connick Jr. took the role seriously and had no problem letting contestants know when they just weren't good enough, but was also charming and hilarious, so it didn't come across as harshly as it did years before when Simon Cowell was on the show. While some viewers felt Harry Connick Jr. was too critical when it came to his very detailed criticism, his knowledge for those actually wanting to succeed in the industry was extremely helpful. I think in total, I like Harry as a judge, but it was weird to see him as the harsh judge when he couldn't deliver a reasonable performance himself when given the opportunity on the Idol stage, and his pop culture relevance mainly rests on acting over singing. At number 10, we have country legend Keith Urban. Keith judged the show from season 12 through season 15 for a total of 4 seasons, but most people probably forgot he was even on season 12. I think Keith was very lackluster and forgettable. He's a really cool guy who is probably an awesome celebrity to follow and learn from, but he didn't really bring much to the table. He always just stated the obvious or critiqued something super specific. There's unfortunately not a ton to dive into with Keith because he was always respectable and had the merit to be where he was as a judge, but there was nothing special he brought to the show. He once said in a 2014 interview with TV Line, "If I just say, here are all the things you can work on, and I don't mention one thing that was good, then I run the risk of the audience thinking that the contestant just isn't very good, even if in my head I'm thinking the person is excellent. They just need to work on these 3 things." I think this perfectly sums up my feelings towards him as a judge. You can't necessarily hate on it, but it's so transactional and clean that it's not really too interesting. In terms of the show giving good chemistry with a judging panel, I just don't see Keith's place. It's so soft and middle of the road, and he wasn't necessarily smoking out hit after hit on the radio either. When you look back at seasons 13 through 15, it sometimes felt like hearing the same thing 3 times in 3 different ways by different judges. His care for the contestants really showed as he went above and beyond to try to get the best out of every single one of them. While Keith Urban showed great support, he was also deemed a little boring at times and needed just a bit more charisma and a harder edge to make him a great judge. At number 11, we have the undisputed Queen of Christmas, Mariah Carey. Before I justify my ranking, I'm going to shine a light on exactly what Mariah thought her experience was like on the show. Mariah Carey herself said that her time on the show was an uneventful and bleak experience when discussing with Jimmy Kimmel in 2018. She also added that she either did or should have recommended to her friend Lionel Richie to not go on the show because of how poor her experience was. Mariah also spoke candidly about her time on the show in 2015 on Australia's Kyle and Jackie O show, describing it as the worst experience of her life. When questioned if she would return for the upcoming season 15 American Idol season finale on the radio show, Carey said, "Heck no, absolutely not. That was the worst experience of my life. I'm not going to get into what it was, but let's just say I don't think they had any intentions for us to have a good experience doing that show. Pitting 2 females against each other wasn't cool," Carey said, referencing her behind-the-scenes tensions she shared with fellow season 12 judge Nicki Minaj. She went on to say, "It should have been about the contestants, instead about some non-existent feud that turned into even more ridiculousness. I would never want to be involved with it again, but everybody else did like it." She continued that her time spent at the judges' table was boring, stating, "It's so boring and fake, I'm sorry. When I say it's fake, I mean I have to make up things to say about everybody. Half the time, the performances are good. You'll just be like, it was good." I think it's important to note Mariah's experience looking back, as she too probably would rank herself lower on the list as well. Despite being an obvious pop icon, Mariah Carey made for a disappointing American Idol judge in the eyes of some. A lot of people even describe her time as a judge as awkward, even appearing on the cringe subreddit. At the risk of boiling her judging down too much, it was often either 2 or 3 word responses or extremely long, drawn-out responses that sometimes didn't even have a point to it. While I personally enjoyed the heat of the Nicki Minaj and Mariah Carey feud, the vast majority of viewers felt that it was just uncomfortable to watch. Mariah's most memorable moment during her feud with Nicki came when she noted a contestant performed a Billboard Hot 100 #1 song that not everybody has. At the time of this dig, Mariah had 19 #1 songs, including the holiday hit All I Want for Christmas Is You, and Nicki Minaj had none. At number 12, we have Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen is one of the most personable and easy to watch people on TV, and while she might be good at a lot of things, being a judge on American Idol was not one of them. The beloved talk show host joined the judging table in season 9 following the exit of longtime judge Paula Abdul, and it was not the best decision. With no background at all in music, DeGeneres really struggled with giving constructive criticism that would help any of the singers, and knew going in she was there simply to represent the viewers at home. Unfortunately, a judge needs to offer something, which DeGeneres just could not, and she left after only one season, saying that the show just didn't feel like the right fit, which was the best decision for her, for viewers, and for contestants. She calls joining Idol as a judge one of the worst decisions that she's ever made, and her having no musical background isn't even what made her bad. I actually love the idea of having an entertainment superstar and comedian as a judge on this show. It was that she was so against saying anything negative about the contestants that she didn't help them at all. She had rare moments of hitting the nail on the head, but for about 90% of the time, her comment was just a joke or had a lot of music ignorance in it. For example, Tim Urban sang Hallelujah in Season 9's Top 16, which is known as a very easy song to sing and is why he sounded so good on it. Ellen jumped in and called it incredible and one of the best performances of the night. A big part of this is the other judges never jumped in and said, "Hey, I see where you're coming from, but that's incorrect and here's why." At number 13, we have Lionel Richie. Along with Katy Perry and Luke Bryan, music legend Lionel Richie signed on to be the third judge when American Idol made its comeback in 2018. While Richie is certainly one of the most genuine and impressive judges the show has ever seen, he is incredibly unhelpful to the contestants. You can tell that he truly cares about the contestants, but is frightened out of his mind to say anything verging on negative. I feel like I can predict every single thing he is about to say, which makes him extremely non-captivating. I honestly couldn't care less what he has to say because it's never helpful and never interesting, other than that one time he told a contestant he was overly confident. The fact that I can recall the one time he was ever critical in 4 seasons is really bad. He has the benefit of dominating any conversation by just casually mentioning his tenure with the Commodores, his work with Michael Jackson, or that time he wrote All Night Long. He doesn't tell people they're bad, he tells them that for one reason or another, they're just not ready. You feel that Richie's speaking from brutal experience, peddling an image of the music business that feels much harsher than the live your truth, shiny musical dream that the whole foundation of American Idol indulges. You'd hope someone with Lionel Richie's singing and songwriting chops would have more advice in terms of pure craftsmanship, but he falls back a little too often on vague statements that could apply to anyone. Before we get to number 14, I just want to say that I'm really enjoying making these videos, and I'm excited to roll out some more soon. To help support me, please make sure you are subscribed and have the notification bell turned on because it's really tough for smaller channels to end up in the recommended and featured pages. It's also really helpful if you hit the like button and comment your thoughts on the video in the comment section below. I'd also like to throw out into the universe that I'm open to sponsorship opportunities for these videos. If you're interested in sponsoring one of my videos, please email me at onlineidolofficial@gmail.com. All right, let's get back to it. At number 14, we have Luke Bryan. Country superstar Luke Bryan was one of 3 celebrities hired onto the judging table when American Idol returned to TV in March of 2018. He seems to always have a hard time being negative, which is sometimes necessary when in the judging chair. He has all the makings of being a well-rounded judge, but for right now, he is way too soft. He is incredibly unhelpful to the contestants, bringing pretty much nothing to the table. I feel like I have to say something positive about Luke, being that I truly do like him as a person. Luke really is a great human being with a fun personality and a cult-like country following. That time he gave his boots to that one poor contestant during Hollywood Round was super touching and real. Luke seems to be there to fill a friendly face space between two extremes. However, since Katy Perry and Lionel Richie aren't really that extreme at all, Bryan doesn't offer too much outside of general Nashville charm. He's a little self-deprecating, but that's a weird vibe given he actually does hold the contestant's future in his hands. Having a country musician on a musical competition judging panel is a 2010s innovation that became a tradition, but that means Bryan is openly competing with the memory of Keith Urban and the ongoing prevalence of The Voice's Blake Shelton. His presence on the show can feel endearingly loose, which is a nice way of saying he just looks happy to be there. He has the power to create country music superstars, and I look forward to him living out his potential. However, I will not hold my breath. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below if you agree with the rankings or how you would rank the judges in your opinion. Please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.